Hey guys, what's up? Jared here, Dex and Dice, Ramblings of an LGS owner. Apologize about the voice, the pollen count is through the roof, so it is what it is, bear with me. I know I'm monotone and southern and all that good stuff, and it's probably ear piercing to listen to me sometimes, but it might be a little worse this go around. But, anyways, so happy Easter for all you people who, celebrate that and all that good stuff. Just hope you have a good day, all that. This video is to kind of complement the last video with the you can start on a shoestring budget. This is kind of more or less a like beginner's guide to what you should probably carry when you first open up. Again, beginner advice. This is not for like established places that have been in business for 28,000 years or whatever. So this is literally just something to give advice to people who are just starting out and might be a little confused on what they should stock in their brand new store, because there are a crap ton of options out there. Now, first and foremost, yes, do your research. Research. I swear I can talk. For your general area. As I've said in other videos, man, the demographic of customers varies from town to town, county to county. What is popular here might not be popular literally 20 minutes down the road. So keep that in mind. Hopefully you have some kind of an idea on like your local scene as far as like what they use, as far as like game sleeves, what they play, etc., etc. But this is just a generic blanket advice. And it comes from me doing the go wide thing when I first opened up, and then slowly trimming it down to, well, this worked, this didn't work, trial, error, all that good stuff. So I'm going to miss some things, I'm sure, because there's a crap ton of stuff. If I miss something or you want to know more about something, please let me know in the comments. But let's go, I don't know, we'll try to break it up into like section as far as like games and accessories, and then like miscellaneous crap. So let's just start with the big one first. We'll do games. Obviously you have to carry the big three, which would be Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon. Okay? No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You pretty much have to carry them. However, caveat with that is that third one I mentioned, which would be Pokemon. Pokemon is abysmal with allocations. Pokemon is a pain in the ass to get. Don't rely on sealed Pokemon acquisitions. If you're in a place where you can get singles for Pokemon, great. Go that avenue. I'll try to remember to go down that route too later in the video. Actually, let me write that down so Squirrel doesn't forget. So you're gonna need to carry Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, and Pokemon. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Your third-party games, and by third-party I mean like Force of Will, Flesh and Blood, Grand Archive, even like the Bandai stuff, which they're not really third-party, but and by Bandai it's One Piece, Digimon, Union Arena, the Gundam card game coming out. I'm missing some other crap too, but, it is what it is. With the big three, you're going to need to do sealed and singles, no ifs, ands. I'm not going to say that again, I'm sorry. You're going to need to do sealed and singles. As far as taking in product, like for store credit, I'm not telling you how to run your business, obviously, but this is just what I do, and it kind of has worked out fairly well. For store credit, start out at a base of 60% and then kind of go up from that point. If it's something you really need, it's a hot card, etc., etc. But start at 60% and just work from there. Cash, again, not telling you how to run your business, but especially if you're just starting out, I would start at about 40 to 45% of market value, which is what pretty much everyone goes on. Sure, you can go to 50 or 60 if you wanted to, if you have the cash and the reserves to do all that and so forth and so forth. But initially starting out, you might want to kind of cool it on the take on buying stuff outright for cash, just because you don't know what your sales are going to be like. You have no data to go off of with that. And plus, you don't want to sink all of your free cash into a single trade, um, because you might screw up and there might be a better one coming down the pipeline that you just might be SOL on. So you want to kind of start out offering small bits. And as I've always said in other videos too, dear God, haggle. Like, by all means, be like, hey man, I can do this. Ball is in their court. Let them toss it back to you. That's part of the fun of this, is doing the haggle. So yeah, that's what I would suggest. I mean, you kind of have to carry those. With third-party games, it's gonna depend on where you are. Like I said, where you are is it's a game changer. What I have found that works really well here is Bandai, and especially Digimon and One Piece. Union Arena as well, but it's a smaller crowd, but it's also a newer game. But so, anyways, it would be Digimon and One Piece is what works well here. Well, no, they went out of that game stopped being produced, so that's not even that to worry about anymore. The DBS game might be something you can look into, but we've tried it multiple times here, and each time it's just kind of fell flat. So, but it might be different in your area. Force of Will, it's if you're not on the West Coast, as far as like an in-person thing that I know of, not going to do very well. However, you might want to highly consider it, at least buying a case or two every time that it comes out, because there is a devout little niche group of people that seem to play it, out west or whatever, and they will buy stuff. It's good. Okay, you might end up with a box or two left after your 2 or 3 cases or whatever you buy, but realistically that's not bad at all. Just say screw it, stick it in your case out front, and maybe some rando walks in and is like, oh shit, you've got Force of Will, and you sell it. Or again, with the singles aspect, you crack it, and I'll go into that a little bit later. Grand Archive has been roughly about the same way. Sells really well online. Super small here. I think there's like 3 people that enjoy the game, and they buy stuff in shop, but does really well online. Let's see. Digimon is awesome. It actually rivals Yu-Gi-Oh as far as like attendance goes for events and sales and all that. So it might do the same in your area. One Piece obviously is crazy. You can never have enough, and that's about it. It's got a fervent fan base. So yeah. Other third-party games. Universes was good, but not anymore. It's super chilled out here. Pretty much died off. Still carries some of it, obviously, just because it's not bad, but I don't recommend you carrying it when you first come out the gate, unless after a few months go by and you have enough people asking you about it, not just like 2 people being like, hey man, do you carry this? Don't give in to those 2, because they're only going to buy a couple of things, and that's going to be it. So yeah. Let's see. That's probably the biggest as far as like card games go. The best information or advice I can give you. Board games, I would not even try, especially with the tariff thing going on. But even before that, I would not even try. They look good on the shelf. They make things seem full. But unless you are in like a high foot traffic, I mean this in the best way possible, but like uppity fucking Starbies drinking class of people, like board games don't really do that well. No one really seems to give a shit about them, at least in person. I haven't tried to put them online because I think that would end up being a pain in the ass to ship. shipping costs would probably be dumb for them, and I haven't tried it. Maybe you can try it and do better, but I axed them the first year and a half we were open, just because you'd buy, I don't know what, six, seven, $800 worth of board games, and you'd sell 2 board games. That just doesn't pan out. So, anyways, unless they're really popular in your area, don't bother with board games at all. Screw them. What else? Games Workshop. Games Workshop follows roughly the same thing as board games does, unfortunately. With Games Workshop being as expensive as it is to get into, that seems to be a barrier for a lot of people. Even though even though you can be like, it's $300, we'll say, to get into, but that $300 is going to carry you for a while until, your army gets a new, like, codex, new models, a new edition comes out, etc., etc. But then there's also the time sink into it, where you got to take the model, you got to put the models together, paint them, and all that good stuff. Doesn't really appeal to a whole lot of people, because a lot of people see like Space Marine 2 and all that good stuff, and they just like, oh yeah, I want to play, and then they realize how much of a time sink the game actually is, and then it's just off-putting. They're done. Check the demographics in your area. Make sure you're not really around another established store that does that really well, because you'll probably lose to them. Not to mention GW, everyone can 3D print whatever the fuck they want to now, so that was one of our issues here, was people would be 3D printing stuff and selling 3D print models amongst themselves and not buying stuff at the shop, or just going to eBay and finding what I would have to sell in my shop for, we'll say, $200, finding it on eBay for $160 and buying it there, versus here. Like, I get it, but that's just the kind of thing you'll run into. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about carrying GW stuff. If you can sling all of it online, if you can go through the process of doing that, I hear it's lucrative that way. Because GW does by far have some of the best markups as far as like your profit margin goes that I've encountered at all, which is part of the reason why I still try to do something with it. So yeah, consider that. Also, let's see. So that I did the card games, D&D, or just tabletop games in general. Very hit or miss as well. Dungeons and Dragons is kind of like the big three, Magic, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh. You open up an LGS, it's kind of expected you're going to have D&D. Just don't go balls deep with it, especially with the new edition. It's a 50-50 positive, negative receive rate there amongst the community. So, and then you've also got the D&D Beyond, which is the digital stuff. The books, there's a handful of people that would still rather have the books, so, you spend, I think it's like $30, $35 on a book, per book, and then you sell it for $50 or whatever it is. So the margins aren't terrible, but it's still like the same thing as selling a booster box. Most things you end up selling, like big ticket items like that, you're lucky to make $20 or $30 on it. Your obscure little tabletop RPGs, like we'll say Vampire the Masquerade, any of the other weird stuff, like they don't really move, unfortunately. I brought in some VTM stuff and it sold initially, and then I restocked, and then the restock has just been sitting there. So, it's kind of like, once you have the books and everything, there's no need to continue to buy stuff, and then the player base for it is probably so small that that's probably what happened. Let's see, anything else? I got the card games, I got the board games, I got the RPGs. I got your tabletop war games in there. Okay, I think that might do it for the like games and stuff. You could also opt to carry other random stuff like video games or whatever. That's completely up to you. It just for my years of working at GameStop, that brings in a demographic of people that you might not really want to deal with as far as when there's an issue or a slight hiccup. Nothing is more infuriating than I mean this in the best way possible, an uppity nerd who thinks they have $600 worth of stuff, and you're like, nah, bro, you really don't. Like, cool, you brought it to me with the case and all that good stuff, but no. Or they buy a game and it doesn't work, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, this is the worst place ever. You sold me a game that doesn't work. Look, it's scratched. It's like, whoa, 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 hold your tits, guy. You know, like it's a used game. Worked for us when we put it in, so forth and so forth. But like, again, if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. Just something else to carry alongside, like a supplemental thing to TCGs and other stuff, which you'll probably want to try to figure something out with that. Yeah, okay, I think that covers that. So accessories, and by accessories I mean like sleeves, binders, playmat holders, playmat tubes, stuff like that. There's a crap ton of stuff to go through. Honestly, guys, if it says Ultra Pro on it and it's not like a zipper binder or something for like the store itself, like the acrylic booster pack holders I showed in the last video, don't bother with Ultra Pro. Their stuff looks pretty nice, but it's kind of crap. So yeah, if you want to go like the Ultimate Guard route, Ultimate Guard is pretty decent. I enjoy them. But with the advent of like Amazon and all that good stuff, with the card holders and boxes and stuff you can find on Amazon for relatively cheap, bringing in the archives and stuff from Ultimate Guard kind of seems like a loss, because I brought in a bunch of those before and they just end up sitting there forever and a day, and then you might sell one or two every 4 months, so it's not really worth having. It plugs a hole in the wall, but if you're just looking to waste money to plug a hole in the wall, like, what the fuck are you doing? So sleeves. Let's talk about sleeves. Again, if it says Ultra Pro on it, don't worry about it, except I hear okay things about the Apex line. I have not messed with them myself, so I have no personal input on that one, but I hear the Apex line isn't that bad, but they're, I don't know, about the same price as Dragon Shields. So, kind of just do your own research there on what to carry. Dragon Shields, however, are the default sleeve for anybody, realistically. It's like the DeWalt of the TCG industry. It's there. It's the entry-level stuff. It does what it's supposed to do. It's reliable enough to where you don't hate your purchase, and you're going to have to replace them after probably less than a year of heavy use. So, there. Also, they have like 12,000 different colors and arts and everything, so there's a lot of variety. So be prepared to carry Dragon Shield in whatever works in your area. In mine, it's essentially just, as far as Magic goes, it's Commander or Bust, and then you have Yu-Gi-Oh! So you'll want to carry the standard size Dragon Shields and the Japanese size Dragon Shields. I carry the 100 count because, again, it's Commander or Bust, and if you have like 60 card formats or whatever, honestly, I would if 60 card formats are big in your area, I would still say screw it, get the 100 counts, because then that leaves them with extra sleeves for a sideboard, tokens, and it leaves them with extra sleeves in case something, if one of them splits or whatever. So, they may complain a little bit about it, but when you're like, yeah, man, but you've got extra sleeves for X, Y, and Z, they're kind of like, oh, well, okay, it's not that bad. Then yeah, so that's what I would carry as far as sleeves go, with your just default getting in there, getting it done. Side note, katanas from Ultimate Guard are amazing. They're hands down, to me, the best sleeve I have ever used. However, there is a horrible, horrible supply issue with katanas. It seems like as soon as distros get restocks, I'm either not vigilant enough or getting there quick enough to be able to restock everything that I need. So yeah, if you can get your hands on katana sleeves and keep them in stock, by all means do it. They're great. They don't come in 12,000 different colors, but once people start using katanas versus dragon shields, you'll have people asking you for katanas over dragon shields, hands down. So, yeah. With that being said, as far as your accessories go, just be basic bitch about it with sleeves. Do dragon shield, and if you can, do katanas, but definitely do dragon shields. Just focus on that for now and build your base up with the dragon shield sleeves. Get in as much as you can, like my shelves that I showed you last time. I have a crap ton of them up there because with the way they're stacked, I can fit 5 dragon shields per row. Dragon shields come in 10 per case. If you do like I do and you just order 5 of each color just to get your row started and then call it a day on that, that's what I do typically. If it's like a popular color or whatever, I find out that I'm having to reorder, like we'll say black every week. I go ahead and order the full case of 10, so that way I'm only ordering black dragon shields once every 3 or 4 weeks. So yeah, I would just suggest doing that. That way, you've got enough variety for everyone while you're essentially just kind of spending the money for a full case on 2 colors, since you're only going to get like 5 of each. And then again, like I said, do katanas, stray away from the Ultra Pro stuff. Binders, honestly, Ultra Pro does make okay binders, but hands down, guys, BCW, their Z Folio line, probably the best standard issued, like basic bitch binder accessory that you can get for the money. I would highly suggest just stocking those at first and going with it. They also have like binders for top loaders as well. Get you a few of those. They come in handy for the whales and all that good stuff that like to have their stuff in top loaders and sleeves. Don't go crazy with them, but get you some of those as well. It's a nice option to have. Like Gamegenic, I'll say this in general as far as like Gamegenic goes, because I know I can hear some of you out there. Well, what about Gamegenic? Gamegenic is all right. I haven't necessarily had super negative experiences with Gamegenic, except like their sleeves. Their sleeves are dog shit. Some of their binders, like their low end binders, are dog shit. If you start getting the like top end binders, they're pretty good. So if you can get Gamegenic stuff, but the issue, unless you get up with Asmodee, which I don't really recommend doing Asmodee, but if you get in with Asmodee, it seems they have a super, well, not super, they tend to have Gamegenic stuff in stock more than anyone else. And I think that's because they own Gamegenic or there's some kind of a partnership there, something along those lines. But one of the reasons why it's hard for you to find Gamegenic stuff is because they're super cheap, and LGSs just kind of use them for their own stock stuff. But anyways, that's all I'm going to say about Gamegenic. They're okay. Their alcove stuff is the same as like a fucking Ultra Pro or Ultimate Guard alcove. Nah, Let's see. That was binders. Playmat tubes. Go with the Monster brand stuff. If you can't find the Monster stuff, do the standard Ultra Pro, just clear playmat tube. The Monster stuff comes in different colors. There's like dual playmat tubes and stuff. They're kind of cool. I would suggest going with those. I think BCW also has a line of playmat tubes that you might want to look into. But everyone likes to, protect their playmat, and this goes into playmats themselves. Playmats themselves, I would not go ham on. I would literally just kind of just dip your toe into some playmats. They don't sell really well. You'll have them sitting there forever and a day. And if you do find a playmat that seems to sell really well, odds are everyone else found that out too. And by the time you go to reorder it, it's gone. So, they're a gamble, essentially. For something that's going to run you, well, after the tariffs kick in, because I think there's like an extra 30% going in on Ultra Pro accessories. For something that's going to run you about $15, $16, somewhere around there, where you're gonna have to end up selling it for probably no less than 25 to make an okay profit margin. Yeah, I don't think people are gonna be willing to spend 25 bucks on a playmat unless it's something completely awesome. Like us, we have all of our playmats for 20 bucks. That's it. You make a whopping $5 or $6 if you sell them that way per playmat. That's not great margins. But anyways, playmats, that's really your choice. I wouldn't suggest doing them too much, because it's going to be one of those like dead product things where 9 times out of 10 it's just going to sit there. You might want to have some stuff just because, but that's entirely up to you. Yeah, the sorter is done. Card boxes, as far as like the white cardboard card boxes go, I would carry those. I would honestly, because we have them and they kind of go through pretty quick. I don't have any currently because I'm out, but your 5K, your 5-row boxes, 4-row boxes, 3-row, 2-row, and your single row boxes, by all means, get some of those to just put together and put out on the floor to sell. People always need storage, so that's what we do. We sell the 5-row, I think, for like 20, the 4-row for 15, single row is 10, and I think that's all we have. I know I own the thing. I should know, but there's a lot of crap out there. So that's something that you can do to help generate a little bit of extra revenue that's not really widely thought of. What else? What else? Oh, dice. You doesn't matter. Just stock dice. You can't go wrong with it. You can get the wrong colors and be stuck with it. Chessex is the default brand everyone uses. You can do specialty shops like we use Old School. They're great people. It's just one of those things of it's dice. Everyone needs dice. Most people are a dice goblin, so you can't really go wrong. Just pick dice and go. Chessex has the best of line, which is kind of cool. But there's always like 4 or 5 colors out of that best of line that in our area just doesn't sell. So you're going to have like a multitude of some colors that people just don't care about. Old School, they have specialty dice. They've got the big ass liquid infused D20s. They have gemstone dice, stuff like that. So there's tons of dice distros out there, or companies, whatever you want to call them. Just take a look around, see which one has the best prices. And tip from the trade here, once you start looking at other companies that sell dice, honestly, guys, they all kind of look like they buy stuff from the same suppliers somewhere and they just label it as their own. So just pick one and go. It's probably the best thing you can do. Um, like dice pouches and stuff like that, I wouldn't really worry too much about that either. Dice towers, I would probably try to get if you can. For some strange reason, those things are super hard to track down. If you know local people who can 3D print good towers, then just strike a deal with them to print you some towers. Um, yeah, I think that about covers everything with dice that I have. Of course, well, okay, so you want to carry the little 7 count, like it comes with the, the D20, D6, D4, D8, D10, etc., etc. The little cubes of small, like 12 millimeter D6s, you'll want to carry those over the big D6s. So just keep that in mind. The small 12 millimeter dice or whatever, people use them for Warhammer, people use them for counters, etc. So yeah, don't even bother with the big don't even bother with the big D6s. Um, I guess that really about kind of covers the whole like basic, like what you should hit when you first open up. Um, Comics, I wouldn't even bother with comics, especially in this day and age. Not saying anything bad about the comic industry there, but it just doesn't seem like it's worth it on a long enough timeline. Um, Plushies and stuff like that, man, I wouldn't really waste your money on the little gotcha stuff. I personally think that's a waste of money. I know there's some shops that carry little tchotchkes and stuff like that. I don't know how well it sells. I just can't imagine that it sells all that well. Like, you buy 30, I don't know, Kirby's, you probably only sell 4. I don't think that ends up justifying the price from what I've seen per plushie through some of my distros. It's like, nah, I'm not even going to waste my time on that. Statues. Statues are cool. Statues are great to see, but unless you have enough people asking about statues and figures and all that, I'd stray away from that when you first open up. As you progress down the line and get to know the community and everything, it might be something you want to venture into, but statues and figures kind of, I don't know, they just sit there. They wait for the exact right person for them to buy, and Lord knows when or if that will ever come into your shop. Um, hmm. So, snacks and stuff, that's a no-brainer. Sure, bring them in, do your thing, but don't just go buy them from like your local grocery store. Get you a Sam's or a Costco membership. Sign up with that. They each have like a business account where they kind of let them be your like warehouse or whatever, so you get a slightly better price than what the normal public does. So I would highly suggest that. It's well worth the $100 a year, at least with Sam's is what we use because it's way closer than Costco. Um, yeah, I think that about covers like your standard like anchor products that you would want in your shop. Um, Going into the singles thing, 34 minutes into the fucking video, I apologize about that. I'll keep this one simple. Singles is where your bread and butter is going to be. By all means, if you can acquire singles, acquire singles. Don't give a shit what game there's really 4 that you carry. Do singles. The caveat with that one are the third-party games that I talked about, like Digimon, One Piece, etc. If you don't have a really large crowd of players for those, your chances of getting enough singles to actually make a fuck is going to be slim to none. So you probably won't want to do it for those until you have a thriving community for those. So that's kind of why we don't really take in any singles for like Digimon, One Piece, Union Arena, nothing like that, because we don't really have the community to support it. And by support it, I mean we don't really have the community to do a constant stream of trade-ins of those of singles from that game to help perpetuate like what Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh does with us. We don't even really fuck with Pokemon that much, just because it's a weird market with Pokemon cards. I'll just leave it at that. Everyone should know that by now. Just because you have a Pokemon full art doesn't mean it's worth $60,000. So yeah, just singles are the way to go as far as when you're first like trying to build up what you carry. Sealed, everyone has sealed, but singles is where you kind of want to go balls deep in there, because if someone's been looking for something in 4 or 5 different shops and they come to yours and you happen to have it, they're more apt to come to your shop again to see if you have the single they're looking for. I know this goes against what my whole like, fuck singles attitude is, essentially. It's just where we are currently in the industry, and as much as I hate it, just because I hate it doesn't mean I don't understand it, so like you kind of have to adapt and overcome with that and just go with it. But yeah, singles, do it. And again, like with trade-ins, take them in at a base of 60% for store credit and a base of like 45% cash. Don't overdo it on cash when you first start up, unless you have $60,000 dollars just lying around for that purpose. Don't worry about getting a card sorter when you first start open, because when you first start, you can always just do like we do now. I mean, we have a crappy sorter. I'm pretty much done with it. I'm going to end up sending it back, honestly. But you can just do like we do whenever a new set comes out. You crack open 2 or 3 cases of new set, and then you just sort the set right then and there, and call it a day. It's time consuming and tedious, sure, but when you first open up, you're probably not going to have the revenue to get a good sorter. And by a good sorter, I mean a Roka or a Fizz batch. And fuck everything else. Those two are probably hands down the best ones you want to try to get. But, not everyone can afford them. Not everyone can qualify for them, etc., etc. So just, do your best on your own with your manual stuff. Help around the shop. This is not a secret, but you're going to end up getting a point to where it's just going to be too much for you, for one person to run. It'll happen. If you're doing shit right, it'll happen. There will be people inside your locals, your regulars, and all that good stuff that you can just have them or ask them to do stuff around the shop in exchange for, I don't know, like a discount or product or whatever. Everybody and their brother does this, so I'm just throwing that one out there. If I get hit with it, everybody else needs to get hit too. So looking at you, IRS, and all that shit. It's just something that happens, especially with a super small business. I mean, it's kind of expected, be like, hey man, you do this and I'll give you a 20% discount, or, you sort cards, I'll give you, I don't know, like a pack per hour or something, or, just figure it out. You're going to get to a point where you're going to need that anyways. Then eventually, hopefully you get to a point where you can afford to pay an employee, so yeah. Don't feel bad or, any way about accepting volunteer help As bad as that sounds, it's what everyone does and did do when they first started. Don't give a shit who you are. Just a thing that happens. But I believe that's it. That is all. That's all I got, guys. You have a good one. I didn't mean for this to be like a 40-minute video, but it just kind of did. If I forgot anything or you have any questions about anything else that I talked about or whatever, please let me know in the comments. Be more than happy to answer the questions. Just because I've been in business for 4 years and I'm trying to share my little hiccups and what I've learned along the way from a like mediocre, like small to mediocre, like successful store. Nothing like, I don't know, you've seen in other videos or whatever. I haven't quite hit like Rob and Louis levels of success or Mason levels of success, you know. So like one day, fucking fingers crossed, one day, but we'll see what happens. I just like throwing these out there because, and I love everyone who I just mentioned, but I think a lot of people try to compare themselves to them, and they're like, well, I'm not where they are right now, so what the fuck am I doing wrong? You're probably not doing anything wrong. You just haven't had that eureka moment of like successful like snowballing or whatever. Just batten down the hatches, put your nose to the grindstone, do what you got to do, and you'll figure it the fuck out. Anyways, guys, I'll talk to you later. Hope you had a good weekend. Life is not a dick. You don't have to take it so hard. You're a trash can, not a trash can't. And I'll see you in the next video. You guys have a good one. Oh, like, sub, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. I forgot to shill for myself. Check out the Patreon in the comments down below. Join. It starts at $1.50 a month. Would be greatly appreciated. Especially if it'll help, you know, keep the shop afloat and me rambling. So, yeah. Past that, I'm good. You guys have a good one. Be safe out there. I'll talk to you in the next video. Bye.